Saturday night, Notre Dame Stadium, South Bend, Indiana. Top 10 matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame. 3-0 Buckeyes, 4-0 Fighting Irish. Rematch of the season opener a year ago. But these teams look awfully different than they did a year ago on both sides. Tom, why don't you get us started here? We got a lot to get to with this game. What is standing out the most to you? You can go nitty gritty. You can go storylines because we got to be able to hit it all. I have not been excited, for a regular season matchup like this in a long time. And it carries a lot of weight, particularly in the season that we're in right now.
I feel like I know a lot more about Notre Dame at this point than I do Ohio State. Like, I've seen Ohio State in the opener against Indiana struggle against an Indiana defense that, granted has continued to play very well and might be pretty decent. So it's like maybe that was just, opening game jitters. But you're also in a situation where Kyle McCord was not named until the starter until last week. And last week was also Ohio State's best offensive performance in a lot of ways of the season. But it's also going to be his first road start. And we've seen a lot of quarterbacks in their first road starts, especially in environments like the ones at Notre Dame Stadium, which, are 100,000 people and it's loud, can have difficulties. So that is a concern for me going into this one if I'm Ohio State. But the bigger concern for me is in the trenches. Ohio State's defensive line has been very good. Notre Dame's offensive line is very good. I expect that to be a very fun matchup to watch. But when you flip it around, Notre Dame's defensive front is pretty good. Ohio State's offensive line, I don't know. They struggled against Indiana. And again, Indiana's been salty since. And they looked better against Youngstown State and Western Kentucky, but they didn't look great. And this is a team that overall is struggling to run the ball, which I feel like is a problem when you have a young, inexperienced quarterback making his first road start. You would really like to be able to turn around and hand the ball off to those running backs that you have to alleviate some of the pressure on him to to make things easier. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sam Hartman is completely balling out. Audric Estime is balling out. Notre Dame is firing on all cylinders. They have been tested on the road against a good NC State team. I think Ohio State can win this game pretty easily because it's Ohio State. It has really good players. But I don't know, man. I have far more concerns about the Buckeyes right now than I do the Fighting Irish. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Notre Dame wins this game comfortably.
I have trivia-themed breakdowns today for you guys.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Anybody want to take a guess? The most touchdowns Joe Montana threw in a single season for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish?
Oh, I'm going to guess 10.
24.
14.
11.
Yeah.
He did 11 his first year starting and 10 his next. Hartman has 13 through 4 games. Granted, it's a different era. I just thought it was a fun stat that I had to get out there. I think this is about, Tom, you nailed a lot of them. I think it's about the big plays from Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. They're the explosive players. I think this is one where Ryan Day, you get the best version of him as a play caller. There are going to be some opportunities. Yes, I think it does fall on Kyle McCord to find them and hit them. But how does Notre Dame defend them? How do they stack up against them? And I think you've got to say multiple times in this game, hey, there's a 15, 20-yard completion. Come up, make the tackle. You cannot have 60, 70, 75-yard touchdown passes where it's caught around 20, break a tackle, or running open field and scores. You've got to limit the big plays, the explosives. So for me, that's one of the biggest keys within the game is how they defend the big plays and specifically those explosive wide receivers.
I feel like I'm seeing this game differently, honestly. Yes, I think Sam Hartman is a legitimate upgrade for the Irish. And yes, I do think there are questions with Ohio State's offense. But I think both defenses are better than both offenses right now. I've been extremely impressed with Ohio State's defense. After watching Indiana, they actually moved the ball pretty well on Louisville. Maybe Indiana's offense is a little bit better than we think. And Ohio State just completely punked them. And they totally punked a good G5 offense in Western Kentucky. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like Ohio State, some of these recent 5 stars that they've recruited are hitting. The right guys, like if you're an Ohio State fan in the preseason, the young guys that you wanted to see, like, would be some signal that they're in the lineup. That means like the talent is actually maturing. They're ready to go. They're in the starting lineup. It seems like the guys they took in the transfer portal defensively are hits. Like Ohio State, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just who they've played. I think this is one of the best defenses in the country. It's the second year under Jim Knowles. They look like they're playing fast. They're playing aggressive under that system. I like Notre Dame's offensive line, but I think they have one really elite tackle in Joe Alt. I don't know that Fisher's awesome. I think he's a good player, but like, I don't think they have like two surefire first rounders. And Hartman's got hit a lot this year. Like surprising. I know he holds the ball. He waits for stuff to get open, and he like Navy hit him. He had a lot of time, but like he still took some shots. He's taken some shots in some of these ball games. On the flip side, like Notre Dame's defense looks better than I thought it would. I think they got really good corners. They're a little better on the defensive line than I thought they would be. And like their linebackers are veteran guys who are in the right spots. I know everybody's going to talk about the receivers and the quarterbacks, but I think both defenses here are better than both offenses, to be frank.
Then don't
see
you
a lot
think
of tackles for loss, a lot of pressure allowed. Yeah.
So then don't you think if you were looking for a, Notre Dame home win as a dog, Audric Estime has to have another big performance?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Notre Dame has done a really good job with some of this like run after catch stuff, and they have run the ball fairly well.
Fairly,
yeah,
yeah.
Estimate for sure. Yeah, especially that it created some explosive runs. Some of the success rate stuff, maybe not so much. Which does that continue, right?
But isn't there something about the like that is the point to wear you down? Mm-hmm. Because we have this big offensive line, and Audric Estime is a physical, punishing runner. And that even though that thing is only going to go for 2 to 3 yards and might not count as like a successful run in the first or second quarter, I mean, there's the human element of when you get down into the third and fourth quarter and we're doing those runs, that's how you rip off the explosives because you have just slowly worn down this defensive front. Now, Ohio State, I agree with you. Like, this Ohio State defense is the big story. When I put Ohio State #1 in the country on my ballot for the CBS Sports 133, it was the defense. It was the defensive front. It was like Denzel Burke looking like he's finally cashing in on some of that promise that we saw when he first showed up in Columbus. The transfer portal additions that you mentioned. But I think that there's something about the way that Estime can run where it is hard to factor the way that it can wear you down over time. And that could be just huge. He doesn't need to have 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he might need 2 touchdowns, especially the hard ones that might come in those like close goal to go red zone type opportunities.
I'll also say, I think Ohio State's defense is very good too. And yes, Notre Dame only has one NFL draft pick on its offensive line, maybe, or at least first round kind of pick. How many do Indiana, Youngstown State, and Western Kentucky have combined? Like, I think they're very good, but they have not faced an offensive line close to the level of the one that they're going to be facing on Saturday on the road. It's not the same thing.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I think too, last year you had Ohio State's defense did a really good job keeping them in this game, right? It was, and then they were able to pull away late. And Notre Dame's defense gave a pretty good it was a pretty tough road for CJ Stroud and company last year with similar weapons, maybe better weapons. So like, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning with you. Like I kind of lean like under, like early lean in this one, just talking it out, wondering where all the points do come from.
All fun fact. It could go against that under. Notre Dame leads the country with 12 touchdowns scored from outside the red zone. Notre Dame is tied for third with 10. Notre Dame has 12. Or Ohio State is tied for third with 10.
Look, we talked about it all summer. Ohio State is going to challenge these receivers to see, can you beat us? Can you beat our corners down the field? Greathouse, Thomas, what do you got for us? Like, you will have lots of one-on-one opportunities. Can you get loose?
Yeah.
They did against Navy. Took a little while at times, right?
Yeah.
They did not really against NC State. Those explosive plays were more like they went unbalanced, and NC State did not adjust. So they were a man short to the boundary. One was a screen. Like if you're Ohio State, you're saying, I'm trying to take away the run game. I'm going to take away the short and the screen stuff. How well is your downfield passing game? How much better? It's clearly better. How much better?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I don't have the scheme eye of many, but I do, like you said, Tom, I feel like I know more about Notre Dame. I like the way they call a game right now. They set you up for those, like, oh, you're just a little bit off on your alignment with your safety. Sorry. Like, that's a 50-yard run right there. I was not confident in the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, given the way that search went during the offseason, but I'm eating my words on that one.
I would just like to point out, do you think any Notre Dame fan has said, man, I miss Tommy Rees? And granted, he had different quarterbacks last year, but you are right. I think it is noticeable, the system, scheming up plays better. And clearly, Sam Hartman's a better quarterback than the two you had last year.
Yeah,
but
the starting quarterback in last year's game against the Buckeyes can't get on the field right now at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But it has been impressive. It's been a surprise to me, too. I was very curious how he would do.
Yeah, just because they missed on the guy they wanted doesn't mean the guy they ended up with has to suck. Like, he's been better than I thought he would.
Yeah. It's going to be phenomenal to watch. Our official picks are 100% going to be coming in the Locks pod. I hear a lot of under leans right now. They just threw the college football 56 on the board, for us. Sure, 8 touchdowns. Okay. Any other X factors, matchups to watch before we hit a break and keep it rolling with more big game breakdowns?
I would like to see the run game that emerged last week against Western Kentucky for Ohio State show up to this game. They're going to need it.
That is I am curious, how good is Notre Dame's run defense? We read Irish Illustrated, obviously. We knew that they were more, they were happier with their interior defensive line play coming out of camp than they expected to be. However, NC State, and us ACC boys will tell you this, has been a poor run game team for quite a while, right? Their success rate is always pretty bad. Navy failed to score a point, I think, for quite a while, for the third time in 4 years in their opening game. Obviously, Central Michigan, especially without their Wildcat quarterback in Emmanuel, I think Notre Dame's run defense is pretty damn good. I don't know that it's great. I think it might be, but we'll see. Ohio State's a better test. Also, Ohio State's tackles, guys. We thought this was a weakness all year. We thought this was going to be a weakness all last year, because we told you they're going to lose. Hell, their right tackle started for Cleveland the other night. And
did a good job against TJ Watt too.
I mean, didn't get totally embarrassed, right? At times, yeah. Made some blocks, and the other guy's starting for the Cardinals, first rounder. Mm-hmm. So
prayers for him. Starting for the Cardinals. Oh no, we're thinking about you, bro.
I mean, look, making millions living in Arizona, there are worse scenarios. But
might not be blocking for Caleb Williams next year. So
if Caleb's dad will let him go to the Cardinals.